It just got very real as the Phoenix Suns have told the Rockets their asking price for Kevin Durant, and the Rockets, well, they are not willing to meet the Suns' demands. Does this mean KD is a no-go for the Rockets? Not necessarily. We tell the latest right here on Rockets Digest. I appreciate you joining us today. I'm Jace Andrews. Now, I know what it seems like. Every single day we're getting a new Kevin Durant report. How much can we trust? What exactly is happening behind the scenes? And while I do agree with you, I think it's important that we look and dissect every single part. Now, when it is a blue chip trade target on the market like Kevin Durant, and it seems like he's going to be traded any day, that's kind of how it goes. There's new reports, there's new rumors, there's new stuff being put out there. I have a couple of sources that I try to keep track because they seem to be the ones that are putting out reliable info. Evan Sidery is one of those guys, and he has the first report, which isn't that surprising. The second one, though, is something you're going to want to stick around for. All right, so here is the first report from Evan Sidery. He has a lot of good reports, so go follow him on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. He said this: Cam Whitmore is a player to watch as a potential addition in a Kevin Durant trade between the Rockets and the Suns. With Houston refusing to include Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr., Whitmore becomes the next young wing on the list. In Phoenix, Whitmore would have an expanded role. And while we kind of knew this, it wasn't something that really anybody mentioned. We knew that Cam Whitmore was a trade piece the Rockets were willing to part ways with. But we haven't really talked about him much with the Phoenix Suns, which is a little bit surprising for me because he would fit with Phoenix pretty well and what they really need. Now, am I excited about getting rid of a guy who I believe has a lot of talent at just 20 years old? No, not necessarily. And do I want to, see him go? No. But on the expense of getting Kevin Durant, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with going out there, making the move to go get a guy like KD and kind of maybe push up your timeline, push up that win now window to the next 3 or 4 years rather than say, maybe not in a win now window right away this year. I think there's a couple of trades that can make them really high talent, high class contenders next year, but there's just a lot of stuff in your way going in next season, and Kevin Durant puts you a step above, and pretty much every NBA person will tell you that. Now, Cam Whitmore, though, is something that I think the Rockets are intrigued to be on the trading block. And I truly think that if the Rockets were to make a trade with anybody, that's not just for Kevin Durant, but for, a Ja Morant or something like that, I think Cam Whitmore is included just because with the Rockets, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are kind of set besides just needing a better point guard. Like Fred VanVleet is that guy so-and-so, but I really would like a 1. And Amen Thompson could move to that 1, and that's what the plan is. But I don't know if I'm ready to push him there into this year, especially when you're trying to build off an already successful season in this past year. Now, the young core is something positive, but if you look at these guys and you say, okay, Reed Sheppard, he was the number 3 overall pick out of Kentucky. He seems like a very good shooter. And when you see some of his clips, it's really surprising to me how little minutes he gets in the NBA. Jalen Green, I think there are mixed opinions on him. However, the Rockets seem to be very willing to let go of him. And then you have Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün, who up until today, we thought were the Rockets' only 2 untouchables. Well, then we find out that Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr. are now not being traded to the Phoenix Suns. At least the Rockets are not offering them up to Phoenix. And Phoenix, it seems as though if the Rockets right now went to him and said, fine, we'll give you Jabari or we'll give you Eason with Jalen Green, the number 10 overall pick, I think they would take that deal right away, because right now it's really just a game of chicken, and I'm kind of quoting Shams Charania on that because that's exactly what he said. But it's just an interesting situation when you look at everything combined. Now, Brett Siegel of Clutch Points also had a report kind of discussing this in more full detail. He had this on a podcast saying, quote, Jalen Green and the 10th pick in this year's draft present a clear opportunity for the Rockets to swing a deal. But the Suns have demanded more, sources said. Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, and Reed Sheppard are among the young talents in Houston that Phoenix has expressed interest in, and the Rockets have not been willing to part with any of the 3 to this point, end quote. And so it's very intriguing to me, first of all, how undervalued Cam Whitmore is being in some aspect, and how protective the Rockets are being of those 3 guys. I understand Tari Eason, and I understand Jabari Smith Jr. to a point. Reed Sheppard has got a lot of talent. I'm not saying that. but I don't know why they're not willing to trade him. I'm a little not concerned, curious as to the reasoning behind it. Like, do they believe that he's going to have an expanded role over the next couple of seasons? Do they believe he has an expanded role coming this upcoming season? Or maybe isn't one of those, if we're going to get rid of Jalen Green, we want to have Reed Sheppard there because he's going to take some of those minutes over from Green and play that number 2 shooting guard role. Obviously, the Rockets are in a good situation for a lot of reasons because they can sit here and wait. Nobody is biting at the bit to trade for Kevin Durant at the moment. Because if we look at the top teams across the league who are looking to trade for KD, the San Antonio Spurs were in there, but it seems like they pulled off a bit because they don't want to give up that number 2 pick. Okay, that's fair. Then you have the Miami Heat. They're looking like a pretty potential place, but again, they're also about 1 or 2 pieces away. And the problem with them is when you're getting a guy like Kevin Durant who has these stats, you're going to need to give them somebody who is somewhere close to that stat line. Jalen Green, for as much as he's being undervalued, does have good stats. He does average 20 points per game over a season. He's also really young. Whereas the Miami Heat, they don't have too many of those. Ware is one of those guys that I could see being, the piece that they would want. But it seems like he's been offered to the Phoenix Suns, and yet that trade hasn't gone through. The Rockets are the preferred trade partner of Kevin Durant. He has trade clauses to where I think at this point, Kevin Durant is basically saying, you're going to trade me to the Rockets. It's whether you do it now for Jalen Green in the number 10 overall pick, or you do it in a little bit when you say the Jalen Green, the 2027 first round pick from the Phoenix Suns. That's kind of how it's looking right now. Now, the second report, and this is one that I'm not necessarily a fan of, and just because you know my opinions on the Rockets and their number 10 overall pick, I don't think they need it. I think it's wise of them to trade it. We got this from Evan Sidery. We also have a report from Brian Windhorst talking about this, but this is per a Suns insider saying the Suns are unlikely to do a Kevin Durant trade with the Rockets unless Jabari Smith Jr. is included in the deal. Okay, we got that. Knew that one. They want Jabari. We're not going to give him to him. Fine. Phoenix, though, and this is the big part, will not rush into a Durant deal if their price isn't satisfied, and they're now willing to go past the 2025 draft. Whoa. Okay, that is a huge report because up until now, it was put across the media that the Suns want to make a deal before the upcoming draft because they want the pick this year. And maybe this is just all smoke in the air for Phoenix to try and get some of the power back, because right now the power belongs to every other team and to Kevin Durant to force his agenda. So this could just be the Phoenix Suns being like, oh, we're going to wait, like you better do something. But at the same time, Brian Windhorst also had a quote on it. He said this on the KD saga, quote, there's a possibility that the Suns will get to Wednesday, which is, if you don't know, this upcoming Wednesday is the NBA draft, and not like any of this, and just hold on to KD past the draft and see if situations change. I don't think they want to take a less than premium offer, end quote. And so now we're at a standstill because the original reports, KD was the number 1 priority for the Phoenix Suns, and it was to trade him as soon as possible to get picks for this year's draft because the Rockets have their number 10 overall pick. Then all the reports come in. They're not getting what the offer they want. The KD is kind of controlling the market here. Well, now you sit here and you think, okay, what happens? Like what is the head of all this? I think Kevin Durant could end up being a Rocket strictly out of 2 reasons. The Rockets are not going to budge in trading either Jabari Smith Jr., because he has been labeled by Ime Udoka and Rafael Stone as a critical part to the Rockets' success and a critical part to their rotation moving forward. So they're not going to get rid of Jabari Smith Jr., and that's the piece that the Suns want most included in this deal outside of, the 10th overall pick, and they don't even want Jalen Green. They're going to trade him away, it sounds like. But you also have one other guy that you can trade, and it's Reed Sheppard, and he's also not being included in the deal, which is surprising. And again, the stats are what they are. Both Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore have very good stats. They have good traits of them. They're different, but they have both good traits. They're also both insanely young. And yet Reed Sheppard is the piece that the Suns want, and I think Cam Whitmore is the piece that the Rockets will be more willing to give up. And so the standstill with the Rockets sits at a halt. But Kevin Durant wants to go to the Rockets. That's the team that is still vying for him. He wants to go to San Antonio, but they are not vying for him as much. So, the Rockets want him. KD wants the Rockets. He is controlling the trade market, and the Suns want a valuable offer. And they could get that from Minnesota. They could get that from even Miami. The Rockets are holding tight. And I respect the hell out of Rafael Stone for doing this, because it would be so easy to say, you know what, fine, here's Jabari Smith Jr. Ime did say he was a piece, but here, take him. We want Kevin Durant. That'd be so easy to do. But instead, he's recognizing that his coach has a plan. And that if they get KD with the trade that they have at hand, great, fantastic, you made a wonderful decision and a wonderful deal. But if you don't, and he goes somewhere else, he goes to Miami, he goes to Minnesota, you have faith in your team and what you've built and the picks that you have, that the Houston Rockets will compete for an NBA championship this year and for the years coming. And that is exactly the perfect way to go about this. So do I think the Rockets will end up with Kevin Durant? I think it's hard to say. KD wants the Rockets want KD, but they're not going to budge on their offer. And so it's up to Phoenix, because they could easily just say, you know what, screw this. We're trading you to Minnesota. You don't want to go there. Sucks to suck. But he wouldn't sign an extension there. So what happens? He goes and plays in Minnesota for a year, and the next year the Rockets, depending on the money situation, say, hey, KD, we'd still like to have you. It's a very real possibility, but right now, honestly, talks are at a standstill. And I don't expect anything to happen over the next coming days because, listen, Game 7 of the NBA Finals is tonight. You're not getting a Kevin Durant trade during the day of the Game 7. That would ruin the NBA. Adam Silver would not allow it. Even if it happened today, it would be announced on Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday, to be quite honest. So we stand still. We wait. The draft is on Wednesday. Things are happening. And honestly, for now, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes because I don't think there's going to be much reporting lately because now it's at a whole standstill. Either way, I want you to get down in the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking about this. Is this something that you expected? Do you want Kevin Durant? Do you not want Kevin Durant? A lot of things are on the table right now, and I want to hear H-Town's thoughts, so get down there and let me know. For now, though, I do appreciate you joining us. Obviously, if you made it to the end of the video, well, what are you doing? If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We're putting out daily Houston Rockets content. We just reached 2,000 subscribers, so you want to join the fastest growing Rockets channel on YouTube and Rockets community, I like to call it. Well, then go down there and join it by hitting that little red subscribe button. We do appreciate you as always. H-Town. Peace out.